Good morning, Facebook world. My name is Sandy Golder and I am the co-founder of Thrive Tribe & Co, which is all about helping special needs mamas make their health and wellness a priority. So we like to talk all things special needs, and I wanted to fill you guys in on a bit about our week that we've had, or a couple of weeks, and just highlight some things around the myth of inclusivity. So I don't know whether inclusivity is a buzzword, and I don't want to generalize the things that I'm going to talk about today, but we've just had some experiences over the past couple of weeks that I want to share with you, just to highlight some gaps, I suppose, because inclusivity is a massive thing for us in the special needs community. And I'm going to read you some definitions because I want people to be really clear. So inclusivity is the action or state of being included, but more than that, it's an attitude that embraces diversity and difference so that everyone has equal opportunity to access the community. Okay, so this is the vibe behind inclusivity, right? And I believe that we as a society are not achieving that, and I'm going to explain why. But I feel like in many instances we say we're trying to be inclusive, but we're still trying to fit these people into a one-size-fits-all box, and we all know that we're not all the same, and we don't all have the same needs, and I'm going to talk to you about that today. So let me give some statistics to kick us off to give this some relevance. So in Australia, the current statistics are saying, this was from Aspect, that 1 in 70 Australians now have autism spectrum disorder. And when we're looking at Australians with disabilities as a whole, it's now up to 18.3% of our population have some sort of disability, okay? Which is almost 1 in 5 Australians, okay, who are dealing with a disability. So today I want to talk to you about 3 different areas that we've had issues with in the past couple of weeks, and just highlight some of the things that can be challenging for families with special needs, and maybe some things that people can be aware of or be mindful of when they're out and about in the community. So I'm going to start with shopping because it's Christmas and there is so much shopping going on. So we braved the shopping centre to get our Santa photo done this week, and in regards to things like this, I'm always very mindful that it's going to be a challenge. So for us, we need 3 adults there to get Emmy and Cooper to have their Santa photo. So we had myself, my husband Richie, and our support carer Alicia to come along and help us, because Emmy finds these situations really challenging. Now, I realise there are lots of sensitive Santa options out there, and I get tagged in lots of them, and I know that there's shopping centres doing amazing things with stuff like this. But what I found was the times that sensitive Santa was on meant that we couldn't have the support people there that we needed because Richie was working, or we had stuff that couldn't be moved. So what I did was I actually booked in. So I found a Santa that I could book in a time slot so we could avoid the line, because we know waiting sets Imogen off, and we went at that time. Now what we found was that the staff really were insensitive at that place, and I'm not gonna badmouth people online, and I actually don't think it was them doing it deliberately. There wasn't that training there, and when we got to our turn, they actually said, sorry, we just need to switch Santas over. And I said, oh, really? Because we were booked in, and it was already, we were booked in for 12, and it was already 10 past 12. So Emmy had done a great job waiting for 10 minutes. And then Santa went away, and we had to wait another 10 minutes till Santa come back. And by that time, you can imagine things were not going as well as we'd hoped. And when Santa come back, we were trying to negotiate with Emmy, and Emmy was, throwing herself on the ground. She was having a bit of a moment. And the staff member come up and actually said to us, oh, do you mind if we just get one of the people from the line to go in front of you just while she's having a moment? And I was like, actually, I do mind, because I booked in at 12 o'clock, and you weren't ready at 12. So to the waiting line's credit, they were amazing, and they were all so happy when Imi finally sat with Santa. So, you know, it was really great to see that community support there. But, you know, as an organization, that company who was doing the photos, you know, we can plan to the best as parents. We can try and plan to make the most of these, you know, situations by booking and paying in advance and doing all these things and having, you know, stuff prepared. But, you know, if people aren't understanding that there are time requirements and stuff like that, it can make it really difficult for our little ones. Now, not only in terms of Santa photos, I also want to talk about like grocery shopping, because I know I've been tagged in it so many times about Coles offering, I can't remember what they called it. It was like a sensitive hour or a autism friendly hour or something like that, which I think is amazing, right? I think it's great that shopping centres and supermarkets are starting to recognise there's a need for this. However, it's on at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, and for all the parents who have special needs children that are in school, that doesn't really help our kids access shops, right? So my question, and I want to put this out to the world, is do you need loud music and really bright lights to enhance your grocery shopping experience at the expense of other people not being able to access a shopping centre experience? So I just think there could be things done on a more permanent basis by shopping centres and supermarkets to make shopping more accessible for people with special needs and sensory sensitivities. So, you know, we don't need music blaring. In fact, it actually annoys me, and I don't have sensory issues. Like, sometimes I find it very overwhelming. There's already lots of people talking, there's already lots of noise going on. Do we really need like loud blaring music? So, you know, maybe someone who works for one of these companies will see this video and be like, you know what, maybe it could be a policy that we turn the music down a little bit, or we don't have the lights so bright, and maybe we don't have chocolates at every register, because if it was just one area that I had to get Imi to avoid chocolate from, I reckon I could do it. But because they're in every aisle, they're everywhere, it's very difficult for us to get our kids to avoid those, you know, the things that can be triggers for them. And I understand people want chocolate, but I think if that was available in one area, that would still be okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, as long as it was still there for people to buy, I'm sure it would be all right. All right, so there's shopping, okay? So let's look at healthcare, because if you follow me on Facebook, you'll know Imi went on an excursion this week to a zoo at the Central Coast, and a little tick decided to drop onto the top of her head, right? And that's an experience in itself, but we had to go and get the tick removed. And for a child that doesn't like to be touched, doesn't like to wait, or doesn't understand the concept of waiting, I suppose is more accurate, this immediately sends my anxiety levels like blaring, right? So I call my regular doctor, and he's not actually in on that day, and the receptionist talks to the other doctor and says, oh, well, you can bring her in this afternoon. This was at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, oh, it's like she's trying to itch it. I don't want her to knock the thing off. And she sort of just said, oh, look, just bring her in after we reopen at 2:30 and the doctor will see her. And I said, great. I know you don't usually get cards out because you have to go and wait there. I said, however, Imogen can't do that. Like, she can't stand there and be calm enough then for someone to remove a tick from her head. Can you please get our card out now and I'll be there as soon as you open? Oh, no, we can't do that. You know, we can't do that because the people who are waiting in line will get cranky. Now, to me, I found this very unreasonable. To me, this is stopping my daughter from accessing a healthcare facility because they're not making it accessible for her. If she doesn't understand waiting, and I'm trying to offer another solution to keep her calm so we can get her medical treatment, I think that should be a reasonable thing. And as a human being, I think people would understand, like if they could see challenges and they were waiting and it was one child being booked in at the beginning. So anyway, what we did was we actually had to go to a different centre, and this centre was amazing. So I will highlight this one. It was Hunters Hill Medical Practice, and it was near Emmy's school, and they were so awesome. I called them. I was a new patient, or Emmy was a new patient. I explained the situation. They got us in immediately with a nurse who was super understanding. We had bubbles, we had balloons, we had jelly babies. We had all this stuff that, could help Emmy get the treatment that she needed. And the doctor was awesome. Took 15 minutes and he got the tick out of her head. And I just thought, I wish that there were more healthcare providers that would be a bit flexible, because those environments are quite sterile, as you know, and quite alien looking, right? And then we've got to take kids with sensory issues or special needs into these spaces where they're going to feel uncomfortable already because someone's going to touch them or look at them or, do things that make them feel uncomfortable. And I just don't understand why procedures need to be so rigid, I suppose. Why can't we create ways that are more user-friendly for people in general? Like, I just think everyone would appreciate it. It's not even just for, people with special needs, but if everyone could make bookings that were actually on time, and, had a different way of organising things, I just think it would be better. And I think really working with families to give these individuals, or all individuals, access to medical care that they require without the stress behind it. Okay, the last one I want to talk about is education. So this is actually not my experience. However, I've been chatting with a lot of the mums in our Thrive Tribe and Co Connect group this week about access to education. And I used to be a high school PE teacher, and I left that profession about 5 years ago. And since coming out of it and having a child with special needs, I think it's made things really blaringly obvious to me that, the education system and the way we teach kids needs to shift. And by that, I mean, I feel we need to start teaching children the way they want to learn, rather than trying to make them fit into the regular education box that we've been taught for years and years is the way to teach, with 30 desks in a room and on a whiteboard. And and I know this doesn't apply to every school, but there are many schools out there who are not making the shift. And I think it's it can be teachers are just used to the way that they teach and aren't willing to, be a bit flexible and change things up, or the whole education system in itself, I think, is quite rigid in that, there's certain expectations for attendance and how people should behave. And the thing is, behaviour is directly influenced by the way that they're being taught. So they're really intertwined. So I've had a few parents this week in our group talking about how their child is having trouble accessing school, and how the principal is making things quite difficult because they're not being flexible with access and expectations, and how things can be used to promote that student accessing school. So, a lot of these kids are often staying home because they don't have appropriate access for their needs, which is really, really sad. And I just feel, personally, I feel so blessed because Emmy goes to a school that solely focuses on teaching her how she needs to learn, not trying to fit her into a certain mold of how they believe she should learn. So, and I will just give Giant Steps a quick plug here because they're just incredible. But they also won Special School of the Year this year. So I know that they're doing something exceptional and right. And it's all based on teaching kids the way they need to learn, and finding different ways. The staff there are so creative and flexible. And I wish that every child had access to staff like Emmy does, because it makes such an incredible difference with their learning. Sorry, I'm just going to read Amanda's comment. Ashley does better standing at a desk, not sitting. Yeah, definitely. And I remember Cooper's school, actually, my son's school, I think it was last year. I don't remember it this year, but last year the teacher had flexible seating options. And Cooper goes, Mum, we've got flexible seating options this year. And I was like, really? I was really excited. And so there was a standing desk, which he liked. There was also like a fitball that they could sit on, and then there was their normal chairs. So they could choose where they wanted to sit, and they could move around at different times, which I thought was great because kids learn differently. Like some kids need to move to learn. Some kids need to sit quietly to learn, and be able to offer those different options throughout the day, I think is really, really important. And I suppose I just want to finish up by highlighting that, you know, we are our kids' advocate. And I actually don't think I've had to speak up as much ever as the last 2 weeks in terms of advocating for Imogen's rights to access things. So just like the Santa thing, like years ago I probably would have went, oh, okay, just let someone in front. And this week I was like, you know what? No, we booked in a time. This is her time to see Santa. And if it takes her a few more minutes, then it takes her a few more minutes. So I'm sorry, you can't let someone go in front of us. You know, with the doctor, you know, I had to find another option, and so lucky that one of the other parents at Giant Steps suggested this surgery, and you know, and then I had to call the other one and say, sorry, we went somewhere else because that wasn't appropriate for Imi. And then with education, look, this week I haven't had to advocate because our school is amazing, but, you know, there are so many parents out there doing an amazing job in really difficult situations with systems that aren't flexible. So I just want to give so much love and let you guys know that I'm cheering you on, because that is a really tough situation to be in. And just keep advocating. That's all we can do, is keep advocating for equal access for our children, and for you know, giving them the same opportunities and access to the community that everybody else has, inclusive of what they need, because what they need is not determined by a system. What they need is very individual, and we shouldn't be trying to fit all these kids in a one-size-fits-all box. So thank you for joining me for Sandy's Soapbox today. I feel so much better getting that all out now. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope it raises a bit of awareness for everybody in what can be happening for families with special needs. All right, have a wonderful day. Bye.